joining us right now, author of a fascinating new book. It is called The Girls From Ames, a story of women in a 40-year friendship. And Jeffrey Zaslow, you know the name. He's a Wall Street Journal columnist and co-author of The Last Lecture, the #1 New York Times bestseller that was so successful. And this particular book that he wrote, The Girls From Ames, also came out of one of his columns. He joined us by telephone right now to talk about it for a couple of minutes. And Jeffrey, thanks for being with us today in Sarasota. How are you?
Thanks for having me on.
Good to talk to you. I had a chance to read through part of the book. I just got it yesterday, and it is fascinating, the story you tell of 10 women, or actually 11 women, but their story of being childhood friends in school through, I guess, they're in their early 40s now. Kind of an interesting story to write about.
Yeah, and it's good that you're a man and you're getting into it. Usually men aren't interested so much.
Well, I have to admit that when I heard the title and was brought the idea, I wasn't so sure, but men can relate to it because men have friends from childhood. I do, from somebody I know from first grade on. So it kind of relates to men, I think.
Yeah, except the research shows that men are different than women in terms of holding on to old friends. Men are side by side. They're doing things together. They're playing golf or poker, and women are face to face. They're interacting and they're sharing emotions, and so men are very different than women in how they cherish their friends.
I know this did come from emails you got from the columns that you wrote, and just to understand from reading part of the book, it was kind of sitting in your desk for a couple of years before you actually sat down and wrote the story, right?
That's right. Yeah, I wrote this column back in 2003 about how women are better than men at holding on to old friends, and I heard from maybe about 250 women telling me about their friends, and I printed out all the emails, and I put them in a drawer, and then a few years later I thought, maybe there's a book of a biography of one set of friends. And I have 3 daughters, so I'm always interested in how they're going to get through life and who's going to be at their side. And so I decided to go through them, and I found the email from Jenny from Ames, Iowa, and I just thought maybe there's my book. And it really was, talking to them each one at a time was really terrific.
Did you have to contact each one all the same, within the same day to see if they're all interested in it, or how did you approach it that way?
I went and I spoke to them each for about an hour or two on the phone. And then I liked their stories, and I was touched by their stories. And then I would travel around the country meeting each of them, and finally I went into a reunion of all 10 of them. And so that was for 4 days, and we had the whole book sort of centered on that reunion.
Now, all these women don't still live in Iowa. They're spread around the country for the most part, but they keep in contact with each other on a yearly basis, don't they?
Yes, they talk all day long. Like you and I are on the radio now. They're probably emailing each other as we speak. So only one of them is in Spirit Lake, Iowa, and she is the only one in Iowa. The rest are all over the country.
Do you think this is relatively common, Jeffrey, from you doing this book? You mentioned women have obviously a different aspect of friendship than men, and we all kind of know that. But as far as a group of this size, you hear maybe 2 or 3 friends will know each other for 40, 50 years, but 10 or 11, that's a big group.
It is a big group. And although I've been hearing, since the book came out, I've been hearing from so many women who say, I've got 8, 9 friends just like that, and we get together just like that. And so a lot of people are reading the book, and they're not thinking about Ames, Iowa. They're thinking about their own friends, which is really, that's why we did the book, for that sort of thing. And, they've been there through thick and thin. One lost a daughter, and 2 of them now have breast cancer, and they're supporting each other. And so it's wonderful to see that, just how they've bonded for life and how they're sharing, helping each other.
I just wondered if, like you mentioned, texting each other now, if that makes it any easier. Of course, people have had friends for years before there even was texting, so I guess it does make it a little easier to keep in contact with people that way. But that's not the basis of it, though, is it? They would have probably done this even 50 years ago, right?
Yeah, well, technology makes makes people closer, but also makes a lot of acquaintances call themselves friends. There's people who say they have friends on Facebook. I have 1,000 friends on Facebook. And they're just acquaintances. They're not really friends. But when you have old friends who you're already in touch with each other, like these women from Ames, that's really wonderful because it allows them to be in touch all day long through email. So technology is helping them strengthen an already strong bond.
Talking with Jeffrey Zaslow, author of The Girls From Ames. Do you get a sense, or did you get a sense, Jeffrey, of why these particular girls in elementary school bonded at that particular time, or was it just kind of luck that they were all in the same, classroom or playground? How did that friendship start?
Yeah, it's like all of us. We end up being friends in kindergarten and first grade with the people who live on the street or the people who are sitting next to us in class. A lot of it is that. But there's something about Ames and those Midwestern values. it's a town, it's a college town. Iowa State is there, and it's surrounded by cornfields, and there's a lot of adventures they had in those cornfields. And I just think that they now are spread all over the country, but when they think of who they are, they're still that little girl that they were back in Ames, and the other women know them when they were little girls in Ames, and so that's part of the connection too. Is you can make a new friend, you can't make an old friend, and they're old friends, and that's what's the beauty of it.
You mentioned before you have daughters. Do you think girls today will have this type of friendships with their friends, kind of being scattered around? And you mentioned the technology before. Is that relationship still being formed in lower schools or middle schools, that they'll have friends 40, 50 years down the road?
Oh, I would think so. Who knows where the world's going to take us? But people need each other. Young people need each other, and then as they get older, they'll need each other. And I don't see that changing. And the research shows sometimes women in their 20s and 30s, they're busy having children and looking for jobs, and so they lose touch a little bit in the 20s and 30s. But there's something about women when they hit about 40, they want their friends in their lives. And a woman who's 50 and still has certain friends, she'll have those friends for life. That's what the research shows. And men are different. Men build friendships until about age 30, and then they let them go a little bit. So men end up more alone later in life. Maybe that's why they want to get married so quickly if they become divorced or widowed.
Well, it is a fascinating book, and again, you kind of sold me on it once I read the introduction, Jeffrey. I think men will enjoy it as well, but it's called The Girls From Ames, A Story of Women and a 40-Year Friendship, and I guess available on all the book sites right now, right, Jeffrey?
Yes, yeah. Everywhere books are sold and wherever men go, it's not going to be sold at the pro shop at the golf, or your country club.
But no,
wherever women go, you can find it.
It does apply to everybody, but it is a great read, and I know you continue. Do you continue the column with the Wall Street Journal?
I am. Well, I'm actually on book leave now. I'm doing a book with Captain Sullenberger, who landed in the Hudson back in January.
Right, that should be fascinating.
Yeah, just finishing that this week, and then I will be returning to the Wall Street Journal.
Well, look forward. We'll set it up again when that book comes out. I'd love to talk to you about it. But in the meantime, continued success, particularly on the last lecture book that was so successful, and this one will be as well. And Jeffrey, appreciate you joining us today in Sarasota. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me on, and to all those friends in Sarasota, hang on to each other.